welcome back, everybody. We're so excited to be up here with you, and I've been looking forward to this specific time because I get to interview one of my heroes here, Harold Mann, and we're so honored to have you here, Harold. He epitomizes the image of an energy pioneer, and he's the founder and chairman of the board of Continental Resources. As an entrepreneur myself, a lot of you know my story, but I started my company with $1,000 in a computer, and I so admire entrepreneurs and look up at them. That's who I've aspired to be like my whole life. So Harold, he grew up in rural Oklahoma. He went to work in the oil fields as a teenager, and at the age of 21, started Continental Resources in 1967. He has transformed his little grassroots startup into a New York Stock Exchange traded top 10 oil producer in the United States lower 48. As a voice for America's oil and natural gas industry, and as the leader of one of America's top E&P companies, he has helped to make America energy independent. Harold also co-founded and serves as chairman of the Domestic Energy Producers Alliance, which aims to preserve the millions of jobs and the billions of dollars in economic activity and tax revenue that's generated by onshore drilling and production activity within the United States. And through his work with the EPA, he is widely recognized as the man who led the charge to lift America's 40-year-old ban on U.S. crude oil exports. So I want to hear about that and talking about that too. So please give him a warm Oklahoma welcome to my friend Harold Mann. So Harold, we've got a couple questions here for you. You know, the current state of the industry in Oklahoma, the oil and gas, it's always been resilient. Obviously, 2020 was another one of those years. Can you kind of talk about this past year in the oil and gas industry and what we faced?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say a couple of things about you. We're equally as proud of you, for your entrepreneurial leadership, and particularly the leadership of our mom. I know that we talked about 2020 and how tough it's been oil patch, but it hasn't been particularly easy in your shoes either with the pandemic. So thanks for all you do for Oklahoma. Yeah, I'd like to talk about 2020. We saw some things happen. All of our business depends on demand, both for oil and gas, and we work to supply that demand in both commodities, and we saw that demand plummet by some 25 million barrels a day, and a whole lot of natural gas as well. And so it shocked the system, and we saw minus $37, 63% oil minus and it shouldn't happen. We know that market failed. It failed the industry, and we've done a lot to replace that going forward. And my peers up here just need to go one of the critical players to get that done. So we appreciate him, John, and the role that they played. So it was especially tough. We saw companies crumble that have been here an awfully long time. And it was really sad to see a lot of people laid off and this and the other. Our company's got a different culture than some. We'll tough it out and not let us hold off. And that's the way we are. We work pretty lean and we'll cut back like that. But so we knew that to recover, we need all that talent. But it was especially tough. One of the toughest periods that I've ever seen.
As an entrepreneur, when the price went negative, I was thinking, man, so they're going to pay me to take the oil. I wish I had a bunch of storage facilities right now.
Yeah. But the poor people could get production shut in, and all that, and you know, we're at the hands of the landlocked facility, food from home, market, and, so it was devastating.
Well, Congress is trying to push through a $3.5 trillion budget bill. This bill is filled with energy and environmental issues. Practically, it's called the Green New Deal, I think by another name. So give us your perspective on the Biden energy policies.
Well, they're fake, and we're seeing that failure work out in a lot of different ways. You know, the gasoline is up some 45%. Almost. We're seeing. I warned about $6 gas in this country, and right now in Bartow, California, it's $6.26 today. So. You know, whenever you crimp supply, and that's what it is, we're under a punitive situation now. He's stopped federal permitting, stopped federal leasing on federal lands, and you know, about 26% of the land mass in America. And so that takes a big hit, and it hurts a lot of states, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, every place that's got a lot of federal lands. You know, that hinders it, it slows it down. And so, it has consequences. And so we're seeing supply fall back, and natural gas prices, that's the only thing left to get. Demand's come back, supply's gone down, so on the other third part of that is price. And so now we're seeing that go up. And so that's his federal policy. That's more than it. You know, it's all the regulations, every agency that's definitely administrative, you know, it's also trying to get in on the act. And so, yes, you're right, this $3.5 trillion package is nothing more than Green New Deal. So, I mean, if they'd like to legislate us out of it, and it's all about political power and political control. And that's what's going on with this administration right now. And they've got a lot of problems passed, but it's a lot of chaos being created by it.
You know, Americans are beginning to feel the Biden energy policies in their pocketbooks. And like you said, $6.26, I think the price of a gallon of gas in California right now. Gas prices are up 40% all over. Heating prices are on the rise. You know, how are these policies affecting consumers? What will it take to get things turned around? Do we know any numbers on what percentage of the population and the average person is now paying on utilities? And you know, can we turn these policies around?
Sure. And, you know, instead of being over there with Secretary Granholm, the DOE Secretary begging for more gas from Russia, and the President on OPEC to get more oil. Did that, all you have to do is change the punitive policy. And it immediately changes everything. That's all you have to do. I can't believe that, you know, we're going to fall back and lose energy independence in this country. We've been number one oil and number one gas producer in the world. When did America give up the number one spot anywhere? You know, it's ridiculous that you would do that. You know, we affected $1 trillion transfer of wealth, you know, when we gained energy independence. It was all done in the horizontal growth. One thing. You know what? Fracking, we've had fracking for 50, 60 years, 70 years. It was horizontal growth that gave us access to all the type of off-grid boards in America, which we have a whole lot. So it hit us how easy it would be to change the policy and make sure we had adequate supply.
Yeah, you know, in my opening remarks to this group, we talked about every president since 1973 has talked about energy independence, Republicans, Democrats. And so it was shocking for us in Oklahoma, I'm sure the people in the industry, to see the president asking OPEC to increase production. And so I would rather sell oil to our friends and allies than buy it from our enemies. And unfortunately, it's just very confusing what this administration is doing right now.
It's ridiculous.
It does look like they're trying to pick winners and losers. They're trying to legislate or just slow down the process and really stop supply here in the U.S. Let's talk about the freeze. We talked about that a little bit earlier on some of the other panels, but the freeze that blanketed the South this past February. I know most are familiar with the blackouts that plagued Texas. We were threatened here in Oklahoma as well, but we were able to avoid those blackouts for the most part. I think we had 1 hour blackout somewhere in the state. But how can states better prepare for these situations in the future? Can you talk about our grid and what we can do to make sure Oklahoma and really our friends down south in Texas and the other parts prepare for that?
Well, I bring up a couple of points on that. One, you can't do all this with renewables. You just can't do it. Solar, when you have everything out over, you're not going to solar. Wind stops blowing. And it's not just during those types of conditions where they blaze ice up and all that. But, right now in the North Sea, where you always have wind, you hadn't had wind lately. And we've seen natural gas prices spike, went from $5 to over $25. Just recently in two days. So you just can't go one way and forget everything else. So you have to have a system, and we have regulators in Oklahoma that are working to try to come up with a system that would provide natural gas. You can't just sit there as a backup fuel. It's got, you've got to have some gas and more natural gas and coal. I mean, we rely here on coal and natural gas to get us through that, where we didn't shut down how long. It was close, but it didn't shut down. With 1 hour was non-event.
Yeah, no, I've had a few century engineers talk to our Secretary Wagner during that period, and you were letting us know, your team was letting us know, states that they were, part of the problem was the wellheads were frozen, and then they were shutting off electricity to those gas areas, bringing gas to the generation plant. So your team, I know, did a fantastic job through that whole 2-week period, making sure that you were doing everything you can to keep supply coming to our generation. That really saved Oklahoma. And to your point, same thing I told President Biden, I told this group earlier, coal normally is only 10% of it, and it went to like 55% because wind was frozen, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why we believe in all the above approach in Oklahoma. You can't be reliant on one single source. And those are the message we try to get to Washington, and we try to get to the policymakers. The joke that I love to tell, it's true, that I tell young people that they could not watch TikTok for 2 weeks if it wasn't for coal in Oklahoma. And I get kind of a puzzled look from some of those high school kids, not understanding where that generation comes from.
That's true, and Oklahoma did a great job coordinating efforts and making sure that power got turned back on to the critical infrastructure out there in the field where we could keep running. Some were shut down, but thank God it wasn't very long that we got it back on before they froze up.
You hear a lot these days about an energy transition. Can you give us your perspective on this, and what is the role of oil and gas in the transition? As you hear a lot of people talking about transitioning our energy generation here.
I want to look globally at it from a global perspective. The U.S. has done its part, Oklahoma's done its part. We've cut back 40% on coal usage, and it's paid off. We've got the cleanest air in the U.S. we've ever had, really, from the 70s forward. And so that worked, but we can't do it all alone. You know, it's got to be a coordinated effort around the world. And when China is adding back 300 coal plants going in Southeast Asia alone, I mean, that's overwhelming the system. And where's the pollution? What is the pollution source? So I call it EQ emotional quotient. We set it aside and look at it from an IQ standpoint, intelligence quotient. Where is the pollution sources and what's good? I mean, this is a global area that we have to deal with. And we can't do it as ended. You know, the role of government is working with those other governments and sanctions or whatever to deal with. But it's got to be done on a uniform basis. It can't be just transportation fuels, you know, to make this transition. You can't just have electric vehicles and replacing all the cars. Number one, you still got aviation fuel, you still got diesel that you're burning out here with station fuel. And so turning everything into electric vehicles is not going to be the answer. So using IQ over EQ, you know, Greta can, you know, we can't just rely on Greta Thunberg to tell that story. So we got to be smart about it, and it's got to be done in a way that the carbon capture, all those things that we know can make a difference in the global system. And it can't be just done here at home. So oil and gas has been here for decades. People might think it's going to go away soon. It won't be. You know, everything we're wearing today comes from oil. You know, most everything around us is running. You know, oil's going to be here for a long time. So we got to work with everybody to make it happen.
It's interesting that you talk about China, something that Secretary Wagner talks about. I think 50 new coal plants that they're starting. They've got 300 in the works, and we are all connected. So it's got to be a global level as well. Think about that globally. Let's talk specifically about Continental for a little bit. You know, Continental, you're a leader in the Bakken. You're obviously been a leader in Oklahoma for a really, really long time. And now, most recently, you're expanding to the Powder River Basin in Wyoming. So, talk to us a little bit about this new play in Wyoming and what drew you up there.
Well, my background is geology. I like oil and gas, and so kind of go where I think it is.
President Trump told me that you can stick a straw around to get oil. That's what he told me about you.
Chris Woodson told him that story, and he never forgot it. It's that way. So we've done a lot of oil, and I've been very fortunate. You know, Oklahoma stands out as one of the things that really brought about the technology that we have today to transform the industry, and that's what we're going to do. You know, Devin certainly did their part at Barnett Shale, their nickel, and went down by Mitchell. Yeah, Mitchell knew that natural gas could be produced from shale, but as geologists, we all do that. We all, you know, acidize the shaly sand somewhere to make shale gas, you know, but until you can drill horizontally and expose a lot of that shale to the wellbore, it wasn't going to produce. But Continental, we go a long way back drilling highly deviated wells in the 70s. I had a drilling company, called Trend Drilling Company, and drilling in the city of Oklahoma City. We drilled 16 wells and highly deviated wells under Enid, you know, with onward gas field cap. So developing that horizontal technology from the experience that I have with drilling. We drilled a gas storage well up here in Edmond for one of them early on. And that gas storage well, you can inject 5 times as much as you could vertically. And withdrawal was about 10 times as fast from the short horizontal as vertical well. And so it just kind of, you know, a lot goes go on. We wound up, drilling the first ever horizontal oil field in the world. Code development that was first resources, one of the secret incline and technical code. So that kind of started, and then that led on to the Bakken and breaking the code, and it is crucial. And the shale that kind of turned everybody loose. The shale development with horizontal wells. So that's what's going on. We're a geologic shop, and the subsurface is where we live and breathe. And so anyway, we've done great things in Oklahoma, if you're well aware, with the student staff and a lot of other places. And Powder River is, we've been in Rockies, since the mid-80s. And so we're very familiar with one, as I know the one field up there, and several other things. So this is natural for us. We're glad to be up there. Wyoming is a very friendly little place, as is Oklahoma.
So the last question I have for you, we're almost out of time. The ESG movement has taken the world by storm. There's a significant emphasis on energy companies and how they're dealing with ESG issues. What is your perspective on ESG? How is Continental responding to this heightened focus?
Well, we've been working with ESG for 55 years, since 1967. So off and on time, and from water issues to all the things from all the time, load drill wells, Eagle pad, that was our invention, that everybody uses today, and up to the land surface issues and all those things. Continental's all over. I mean, as you would expect, the leader in that, if not the leader in a lot of other areas. So it's been a great thing. Part of it is we know also along with being good stewards of the land and water and everything else. But we also need to make sure we have the narrative correct. And just a little things that we could say, it's like there. And people think, well, there's raw gas in there. No, that's the burning of gas if you had to have a lease of some sort. But that's just little things like that in the narrative that we need to also get right. So we felt like it was a great thing for us to be ahead of this ESG issue. And we have been as a company. And we felt like it was also for DEPA to lead that and disseminate it to all producers in the U.S. to be a great thing too. Because we have in America the cleanest production in the world. I mean, those guys don't worry about it. In a lot of other parts of the world. But okay, Russia, you wouldn't believe it. But anyway, it's much better.
Well, thank you so much. We're out of time for our time this morning, and thanks Harold for being here. It's the 61st anniversary of this great organization. We know you're busy. We appreciate your thoughts and your remarks today, and educating all of us on being in the community pioneer. So let's give Mr. Ham a warm round of applause. So we're going to take a break now, and I believe the luncheon is starting in Oklahoma Station 5. So this session is adjourned. Thank you.